All dreams considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered.
Welcome back to All Dreams Considered with Sarah, and today I'm with Charlene of Gigi's Cafe here in Hillsdale, which is a neighborhood in Portland. And I discovered Gigi's during the pandemic, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was, I moved here right before the pandemic, and so I didn't know where to find good food.
Oh.
But I discovered your place one Saturday when I was looking at farmers markets, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check this place out. And I've been coming back pretty consistently ever since. And the more that I've come back, the more I've realized, it took me a few times to realize, oh, wait, how come there's no tip required? And food is just amazing. And I've been noticing that your employees seem to love working here and seem to genuinely love people. And so I wanted to ask you how, I'm sure this is a very complicated story, but since this is All Dreams Considered, I wanted to talk about your dream for this restaurant, and then we can talk about several of the dreams, if they don't naturally come up. I have a few points I'd like to bring up.
Okay, sounds good. Well, first off, I never wanted to open a restaurant, so there you go. That's number one.
Wow, interesting.
I was a chef. My dream, actually, along the way, when I was younger, I always loved to cook, and I went to culinary school. So I got to go back a long time here. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I sort of started doing just little, you could call them caterings, I guess, but I wasn't charging for them. I was just cooking for people because I loved to do it.
Wow.
And then I thought, well, I should probably charge. And it felt strange charging for things. But.
Here's a word from our sponsor at Inner Oasis.
Welcome to Inner Oasis Mind, Body, Spirit. We're in the heart of historic downtown McMinnville, and we offer you inspiration, tools, and gifts for the soul.
So I loved cooking for people. And, being an at-home mom with little kids. Now we're talking, my youngest will be 21 in December, so this was a while ago. But as I was home with little kids and watching TV, the culinary school commercials would come on. And we're talking TV. We're not talking, it's 20 years ago, so
right.
It's not Hulu
network
and
TV.
That kind of thing, yes. So I was seeing commercials for cooking school. It's like, oh my gosh. One other thing, those clubs where you can get 5 books for $1 and then just buy another one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a cookbook club. And so I did that. And one of the cookbooks I got, I actually had to spend 2 credits on this book, but it was the Culinary Institute of America's textbook. And so I just sort of did stuff out of there and kind of learned my way through this, this textbook. There's not a Culinary Institute of America, it's CIA, which is kind of funny. The initials, but there's not one in Oregon. I was living in Bend at the time, but there was Western Culinary is what it was called, and that was the commercials that I was seeing. And so then, my dream was, okay, I want to go to culinary school. I think that was sort of the beginning of my, I just made a 5-year plan. I thought, well, hey, I want to own a catering business.
Wow.
It's my 5-year plan. I'm going to go to culinary school. It's going to take me a couple years, and then I want to own a catering business. So I went to culinary school in 2006 as an older student. So everybody called me mom in class because I was in my 30s, but they were 18. So apparently I was mom age, but that's fine. And so
you could have been their babysitter, not their mom.
Right. So and I was married at the time, 3 boys. It was a rocky marriage, and I didn't realize how rocky it was until I started getting more successful, because I had been a stay-at-home mom, and I was just doing my part as a stay-at-home mom, and I had no control in the relationship. Right. He worked at the bank where our money was, and there was a lot of control on his part. So let's see, it was in 2008, so I had just graduated from culinary school in 2007, and I had gotten a job straight out of culinary school as a catering chef, which is not normal. Out of culinary school,
That's a synchronicity.
it kind of so, yes. So here I am, a chef, and I'm working long hours and trying to make a name for myself and trying to, get my dream of this catering company. And I was actually a catering chef at a catering company, so I'm working in the right direction, right?
Right.
Well, I was also trying to get out of my marriage, and with money the way that it was, we continued to live together. This was 2008, so if we remember back to 2008,
Yes.
that was an economic downturn.
Yes.
And so my husband and I were separated, but living in the same house, separate rooms. I were working opposite schedules so that somebody was always with the kids. We were kind of sort of making it work until one day he attacked me.
Oh my.
And there was a lot of things that led up to that. It's a super long story. He actually went to prison for 14 years. I
you
nearly
okay?
died.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's stuff that you didn't know, but the Oregonian did a story. This was like before the Me Too movement, and I was on the front page for 2 Sundays in a row, talking about my experience with domestic violence and that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, you're an amazing success story too.
Well, I didn't feel like a success in 2008.
Right. Sorry.
I was trying to
go back there.
I was trying to hold it together, and I have 3 boys, and they were well, how old were they? 6, 8, and 14, I think were their ages at the time. The 14-year-old was super close to my ex, and my ex had kind of pulled him in and was, oh, your mom's doing this, and your mom's, I'm the evil person, right? But he throughout all that, I am very much condensing this story down. The Oregonian article goes into it super in depth, so I won't. we would spend the entire 12 hours here talking through that story. So then shortly after that happened, the restaurant that I was working made cutbacks, and so then I was an unemployed chef, living on unemployment with my 3 kids. And I had actually met my now husband. I was his boss. I never would have dated somebody in the kitchen, I don't think, but he just didn't seem like he belonged in the kitchen, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the nice way to say that. It was just, there was just something about the people that I was working with that was like, ugh. I felt like I was mom again, and taking
Right.
care of a bunch of kids.
Except for him.
Yeah, except for him. And, we still laugh about it because, here I was the chef in charge of all these things, and he had to make some stuff. I'm like, do you know how to do this? I'm trying to manage everybody. First off, I thought it was great coming from being a stay-at-home mom, because I'd come in, give everybody duties, and then I'd go check back like you do as a parent. And they had done everything that I asked. I was
Nice.
like, what? I love this. So I loved being a chef. I loved this work. But anyway, one day he came to me and he was making mashed potatoes, and he handed me a bowl of mashed potatoes. He's like, are you hungry? And I was like, nobody ever really thought about me as a, hey, are you hungry? kind of thing. So that stuck with me. And it stuck with me. And this was like 6 months after my ex-husband had attacked me and went to prison. I was in no position to be in a relationship at all, but we started dating. We've been together ever since. Anyway,
Wow.
so that was, we got together like it was, the attack from my husband was like in July of 2008, and then Mike and I got together the end of December of 2008. So it wasn't, it's not enough time to even process. I mean, he hadn't even not been on trial yet for what he had done to me. So, I had all these things.
I mean, how amazing how quickly things turned around for you.
Just crazy. So then, then I became an unemployed chef, and let's keep in the background here the 5-year plan, because that was in my head still. You know, and I'm, well, let's see, I'm 2 years into my 5-year plan. Okay, so I'm like, well, forget that. I don't even have a job right now. I just have to figure it out. So I decided to, I'm like, I'm doing worse than a starving student, and I'm trying to take care of 3 kids here on unemployment. It's not working. So I went back to school. And I thought, well, I'm just going to finish my accounting degree, because I can always get a job as an accountant, even in a downturn. If something goes wrong, at a restaurant, the restaurant should just shut down. It was also a catering company, but where I was working, it just downturn. So I started back at school. One of the first classes I took was BA 101, and it was like an intro to business. And Mike and I, my current husband, had, he wanted to open a food cart. And I was like, okay, well, whatever, And so when I went into business class, in that class we had to create a business, and we had to do a business plan for it. And so once again, I'm in class with a bunch of 18-year-olds. Like, how are we going to do this? So, and everything is group work now. The first time I went to college, we just did your work and turned it in. Right. And now it's not like that. You are part of a group, however you look at it, which is kind of frustrating for somebody who, I always then had to be the leader of the group, because I wanted to get a good grade. I didn't want to, put it in somebody else's hands. But especially for this project, I was the leader of the group, because I wanted to put together this business plan for a food cart. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It's close. It's in the food realm. My own business. That'd be great. Whatever. And so we worked through all the process and everything. I didn't give them my idea, which the food cart thing had become big around that time because of the downturn, the economic downturn. Right. People had all this land, and in Portland, if you can, as a private owner, charge rent to food carts. So they were making money, in the best way that they knew how with their land when people weren't buying it or building on it at that point. And so, okay, I'm getting off topic. I go off on tangents.
Tangents are welcome here, because tangents are often really interesting information, and if we need to circle back and do another episode, we can do that.
You just have to remember where I started going.
No worries, I got you. So you were back in school.
So anyway, did this business plan, and then I started back at school, in the fall of 2009. So I did the business plan in the beginning of 2010, and by November of 2010, I'd used the business plan and we had opened a food cart. But along that time, we didn't know, what kind of food are we going to do? Mike was always like, I want to do meatballs. It's like, I don't know, that's not exciting. But I was really excited about all these waffles that were around town, And so we would go try, and they were just all kind of like Krusty's waffles, and they'd be sandwiches or whatever. But it intrigued me. And so we'd try them, and I was like, yeah, all of the stuff is good, but there's got to be a waffle that's just good on its own that doesn't need anything else. So shortly after that, I saw a show on the Travel Channel that was all about the Liège waffle. So there was a little, just a little house on top of a hill at a ski resort. So people would ski by and grab a waffle and eat it as they're skiing. Because in Europe, the Liège waffle is more of a street food, a handheld kind of food.
Right.
Here you get it on a plate with a fork, and people ask for syrup, but it's like, the Europeans come here and like, you put powdered sugar on it, and they freak out because the Liège waffle has the pearl sugar kneaded into it. So lots of butter, lots of sugar, what makes it delicious, but it's delicious on its own.
It is delicious on its own.
And so then we thought, well, okay, now here's a canvas that we can be chefs with. So that's how it started. It was a Travel Channel show.
Wow.
in 2010 that we saw.
I love how you're like,
So-
that's how it started, even though it started so far in the past. But it's
Well, that's
where
how the
idea
waffles started.
Yeah.
And so we went through, oh my gosh, so much. There was the first couple of years, honestly, it probably would have been better for the both of us just to get minimum wage jobs somewhere. But one of the funniest things that I said to myself was, hey, we're going to school and we need to be able to control our hours. So let's just open our own business. That way we can make our own hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you control all your hours.
And yeah, your hours when you open a business are 24/7. So that was silly. I laugh about that now. And so anyway, so we started off and we found a spot. It's actually down by the Chinatown
Yeah,
entrance down on 4th and Burnside was
right,
where
for
our
the
first part
Chinese
was.
gardens, right? Oh, no, the actual
arch.
arch.
I don't know what it's
Oh.
called.
Yeah,
The,
Yes.
you know, the entrance there, it's not really even Chinatown anymore. It's down on 4th and Burnside, right?
yeah. I'm going to be doing a series on going around Portland
Oh, yeah?
with a friend of mine, so we'll have a picture of that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, so anyway, there was a guy on the corner there that was just mad at the city, and so he's like, well, I'm gonna, they're not letting me do anything with my land, so yeah, here, you can pay rent until the fines that they're giving me are higher than what your rent is. So the guy was just like, he was just mad, really, is
Wow.
what it came down to. So we paid a little bit of rent and set up there, but down there, our main customers were not during the day, but we had to learn they were at night. So we went to school during the day because my husband we weren't married yet, but Mike and I were going to school together. He was going back to get his philosophy degree, and I was getting my accounting degree.
I have a philosophy degree.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, he has his funny joke that he likes to tell that's no good in the accounting world.
I have a math joke.
A math joke.
Yeah, I talk about how, people say you're average, and then I say that's just mean.
Do you want to tell your joke? The one about your philosophy degree and my accounting degree?
Oh, well, yeah, because we both came out of the kitchen.
Come over closer.
With her, with her accounting degree and a kitchen background, she could really cook the books. She didn't like that. And then with my philosophy degree, I could really feed people bullshit.
Nice.
You
Well, I
can't
gotta
cook
say-
the books in accounting. It's bad.
Well, and also in a restaurant, you really shouldn't talk about feeding bullshit. But look, I can confirm the food here is amazing. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Anyway,
He thinks he's so funny.
well,
So
he
anyway,
is funny.
he is a funny guy, actually.
laughed.
I do. I laugh a lot. And that's good. That's what we need. But yeah, so we're both going to school. We each had 3 kids. So we're like modern day Brady Bunch.
So, did he have 3 girls?
No.
Oh,
So
that would have made it
close.
perfect.
It would have been perfect, huh? No, 2 boys and a girl. So the littlest
One
was
girl.
was a little girl, and poor thing. But she was tough. I'll say that.
I bet she's amazing. Yeah.
So between the kids and the school and the business, there was just a lot of scheduling that had to happen. So I had to schedule out our classes so that we could do classes opposite, and then somebody would be available to work the food cart. But we did the food cart during the day, and then on the weekends we also stayed open till 3 a.m.
Oh my
Because, yes. Oh, I don't remember a good year of that. I don't know how we did it. I can't even fathom doing that at this point. But I guess I was younger.
Miracles happen every day.
I had a plan to do it, I guess. So while we were there, we stayed open until 3 a.m. and dealt with everybody coming out of the bars. When they closed the bars down at 2, everybody dumped out looking for food, and what was hard was people would come up, oh, you got tacos? They're all drunk, and Like, no, we have waffles. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, give me a waffle. And I took their money and gave them a waffle, and knew that, you know, a few blocks down, they're probably just throwing up the food that I worked so hard to make.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
so sad.
It was just demeaning, really, because it was as if, you know, we worked so hard. We put so much thought into all the things that we were doing, and, you know, we had this philosophy that everything could be, you can make any dish into a waffle, and we've done most of them.
I love your Monte Cristo. That's a really good one.
It is
And
a
the
good
chicken
one.
burger. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
The Monte Cristo is a throwback, and it's not on the menu right now because we had to condense a little bit so I'm going to talk about it. It's not going to be available, but we had to condense a little bit just for staffing issues right now. But when I was 7 years old, my dad took us to Disneyland, and inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, there's a little restaurant called the Blue Bayou, and they had a okay, back to Monte Cristo. The Blue Bayou inside the Pirates of the Caribbean is a little restaurant that if you've been on the ride at Disneyland, you go down like, you know, the swampland, and then you look up and there's people at tables because that's the restaurant that's in there. Well, we went in there, and I was the oldest of 4 kids, and my dad worked for the post office, and so he would have like training events down there. He'd do his day of training, and then the rest of the family would come down, and, you know, we'd stay one night in a nice hotel, and then we'd go to the hotel that we could afford as a family of 6 for the rest of the time and go to Disneyland. So that was always our vacation. Well, we didn't have a ton of money, and my dad was like, you know, $7 for a sandwich. It was just unthinkable in the 80s, you know. So it was this Monte Cristo, and so he got it for us, but 2 of us had to share one. So, you know, he wasn't paying $7 a sandwich for each of us. And I was always like, oh, this is like the best thing. It's just like a donut with meat in it. It's like the greatest thing. So my little 7-year-old mind was like, you know. So that's a throwback to my Disneyland days when I was a kid. But
I love
anyway,
that.
it will come back once we have staffing under control. We just have to be able to pull off the menu that we're offering.
Right.
So,
So you were just talking about how it was degrading, or it was you were feeling like
Right.
all your hard work was being vomited up.
right, exactly,
Because
exactly.
it was drunk people.
And or they were drunk and they just didn't care what they were eating.
yeah.
You know, they were like, oh, tacos? No, not tacos. Waffles, fine. Okay, I'll have that. You know, it was not that they were searching us out because our food was good. It was that, oh, you're here and I need to eat. You know.
Right.
So it was kind of demeaning as a chef a little bit to be dealing in this realm, but it's where we were. So we moved over to a place on the east side that was just terrible. 1 month, and this should tell you something. 1 month, our sales for the whole month were $1,000. Now, sales doesn't count any of the expenses or any of the living expenses or any of the anything. And honestly, I think, you know, probably we should have just closed at that point. It's like we should have just closed, but we didn't because I'm stubborn. So then we found a spot. We just were like, well, okay, we've got to close or move because this isn't working out. And so we found a spot down on the Big Pod that was down there, 9th and Alder. They're building a hotel there now because it's a Ritz-Carlton, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were there back when it was just a parking lot.
It'll be interesting to go stay the night there. I want to hear that story.
Yeah, that would be fun, huh? This is right where we used to be. Well, so we had the cart down there. So let's see. Well, now that was 2010, 2011. So we must have moved there in 2011. And then the cart was actually down in that location until many other things happened, but I sold it in 2015. So it was there for about 4 years. It was busy. And then it was busy during the day, so we could be normal human people.
Oh, good.
And we still had to schedule classes opposite each other. And but the nice thing was, as I was getting my accounting degree, is every class that I went to at PSU applied to my business somehow. And so
beautiful.
I was learning things that maybe others weren't quite, they learned the book part of it. I was not so good with the book part of it. In fact, I had a teacher once introduce me to the dean of the business school. She's like, "This is Charlene. She's great." And she says all this stuff. She's like, "She's not an A student." And I was like, "Do we really need to throw that in there? Do you know all the other things that I'm doing?" So, so I'm not an A student. But, I do have a degree, and I am a CPA. So there.
And you're successful.
So there.
Yeah.
It's not always about the A's. I was learning a lot. So I just applied that as I went along, and just different things kept happening,
There's already been a lot of synchronicity in this story. It's amazing.
So we were on several different shows. We were on a cooking channel show, Eat Street. We were on a Food Network show that was called Food Court Wars, where that one almost put us out of business too, but that's a whole other story.
I'll come back to that.
It was, the prize was a location in a mall, and the mall was in Kelso, Washington. So we went up there and did our research, and we looked, and we're like, we don't want this. We don't want to win. But it would be cool to be on TV. So how about we go on TV and we lose? That was our plan, was to lose. And so we did the show, and I was like, I know how these producers work. They're not going to get me. I'm not going to cry, as Tyler Florence was the host. I'm like, I'm not going to cry. He's not going to make me cry. I cried. The first challenge, we're just kind of like, la, 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 la. We don't care. We don't want to win, right? Well, then we lost the first challenge, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But what we had noticed as a trend in this show, because we were in the second season, and we'd watched all the shows in the first season, everybody that lost the first challenge won in the end. Everybody across the board. And I was like, oh, no. And so then I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. So then the second challenge, there were 3 challenges. The second challenge, I think we were a little bit sabotaged, because we each had a culinary producer, and they kind of didn't let us in the kitchen as much. It's kind of interesting behind the scenes. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say here, really, but
We'll find out, and we'll talk about that next. Yeah, or next time. Yeah.
Anyway, the second competition went terribly. It was outside. We had pre-cooked the waffles. We had our heated waffle iron, and they're like, oh, don't worry about that, you won't need it. We had pre-cooked our waffles that they put in a cooler for us, and then we decided that our side dish, because we had to come up with a side dish, was going to be lemonade. Well, it was January in Washington, so here we are serving cold waffles and iced lemonade, while the other team was serving hot sandwiches and soup. So I'm like, that wasn't very smart. And in my mind, I was not thinking of winning. I didn't want to win. But the producers did their job, and they made me cry on TV. Now, they didn't use the part that led up to the making me cry, right? But they got the
that's all they wanted.
They got the crying. Like, why do you want this? Why are you doing this? Oh, I'm doing it for my kids. So you don't go instantly there, because I was ready to not go there. And so then, after that experience, I was like, this ticks me off, because here I have this nationally known chef saying, like, what are you guys doing? Who's even running this ship? Do you guys even know what you're doing? Where's your prep list? Where's your this? Where's your that? And I was like, I can't believe this. We were going on, to get like some attention on us, and now everybody thinks that I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And so it ticked me off. And so then I wanted to win. And so then we come back. I've forgotten my whole plan. We come back the next day, and the last thing is they get a bunch of people come in, and they give them tickets, and they buy, each other's food. And whoever sells the most food wins. And of course, there were games on that day too. I think the camera people were turning up the stove and stuff. Those things don't just magically happen, you know. I'm like, yeah, okay. But Mike was on it, and he got it corrected, and so we didn't lose any product. But the other team didn't realize what was going on and burnt some of their rolls for their sandwiches, and so they already lost at that point because. So he caught everything, and long story short, we won. Spoiler alert. And it was a big deal, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah!" It was so exciting to hear our name called, and my middle son was like, "Is my mom a millionaire now?" Because they were billing it as it's a prize worth over $100,000. Well, the prize was your lease in a mall space for the year. Well, if nobody's coming into the mall, what good is that prize?
Right.
It's not worth $100,000.
Right.
So anyway, I have a lot of opinions on that, but I'll leave them. So in order to make it all work, we had to hire somebody to work in the food cart down here because that's what was making us money. And a food cart really makes money if the owners
Right.
are in it.
Right.
Because
You don't have to pay yourself.
Well,
you do pay yourself.
you're paying yourself, but you don't have the
others.
labor cost, right? So you really just have created yourself a job. Is what you've done. You've created yourself a job. And that's fine. It was working for us. It was doing what it needed to do. But now we had to hire people in to do that job so we could go and man the place in Kelso because we couldn't afford to hire anybody up there because, we weren't making any money. So I take that back. The first week we were there, I signed autographs. Like people came up like, "I saw you on TV," and and they wanted my autograph. I was like, "What?" We made waffles, guys. We're not that, but that's fine, And then week 2, crickets. So it was like everybody got their waffle. There was some notable facts. One day Mike had somebody walk by and he was like, "Oh man, your waffles look so good. They smell so good. Not this paycheck, but next paycheck I'm going to come and get a waffle." And we're like, we're in the wrong market because this is more of a impulse buy
Right.
and less of a save up for next paycheck buy.
Right.
Or we were like $4 waffles at that point. It was, it wasn't a ton. So we're like, ugh. And I had graduated. So this was now, where we were in 2014 now, because I graduated in 2014. We kind of live in this neighborhood, and we've always come by this place here at Gigi's, and it's always like, man, we would do so good if we could just get in there. It's like, I don't know if it would work though, because there's like carbs, bagels, pizza, bakery. Can they really support waffles too? It's like, I don't know. Well, so one day we were driving by and, we were experiencing our experience in Kelso. And it's like, oh God, this isn't going to work. We got to do something else. And we came by and I saw a giant sign, and it was at the resale store. It's a resale store. Now it was a Dachshund Rescue for a while before that. But there's a huge sign that said for lease. And I was like, oh, let's just check it out. Maybe we can get in there. Maybe it could work, And so we're walking by, and Mike stops here, and he looks in. He's like, "This is perfect." I said, "No, that's not the place. Come on down here." And he said, "What are you talking about? This is a restaurant." And I'm like, "But this is what's for lease." And in the window, there was this tiniest little postcard that said, "Sorry, Hillsdale, we're closing up. If you're interested in the space, give our landlord a call." And so there was a wine bar that was here for just a few months that she had to close for whatever her reasons were. But and before that, it was a cafe for 20 some years, and before that it was a Greek restaurant for 20 some years. So I mean, it's like this place had staying power until the wine bar. I'm not sure, and I don't, that may have been more personal issues, whatever. But so anyway, we came in and we looked at it, and Mike sat down and he was like, he told her, he says, "We don't have any money, but we have really good ideas." First off, I said, "Why are we even meeting with her? We can't sign a lease. We can't do any of this stuff." And he's like, "Yeah." That's what he said to her. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I said, she's never going to rent to us now. But we had a business plan, and we had a menu. And so, which the menu I worked up on my drive back from Kelso one day. We did.
We asked for a business plan and a menu, and then we did it because we hadn't done a business plan and stuff.
I had a business plan that I worked on in business. And
That's what I mean.
For,
it wasn't for this. We didn't have
well, no, I had to modify it because it was for a food cart. But
You've done all the hard work. You just had to tweak
but
it.
the hard stuff was there. Yeah,
that makes sense.
So, so anyway, yeah, he's like, what? We don't have any money. I was like, okay, wow, we're never going to do that. Somehow she picked us, and so I wrote a check for.
Actually, if you remember too, she wanted
He's
to. At the time, she was building the building across the street where the bank is, and so she saw what, or talked to us, and she said, "You guys might want to do this." You know, what's this? Oh,
We're doing a podcast.
Oh, we are. Oh. Hello, everybody out there in the internets. So she was building that. She showed us the plans, you know, and she was like, "You'd go good in this spot, you know," and we were like, you know, because it, you know, new and all that kind of stuff. We thought it would be interesting. She invited us to come to the Hillsdale pancake feed, you know, so we did that, and but anyway, you can tell it was like when we first opened, the guy that she worked for, who's kind of part of a big restaurant group, said, he goes, "I wanted to rent this place." He goes, "I tried to rent it, she wouldn't rent to us." And the main thing was she didn't want to let him have alcohol, so that was a kind of a sticking point. But we were both like, how did we get it and not this guy who we know has, you know, deep pockets and investors and
he was my mentor out
Right.
of culinary school. I actually worked at his restaurant, and he came in here and was like, "I was going to get this place."
Yeah, I really wanted it, you know, and it sat vacant for quite a while, and then I called her up after the pancake feed. I said, "Artie," I said, we'd love to do that, but you know, it's going to cost $500,000 or $250,000 probably to build it out, and you know, we just don't have this. This is already a restaurant. I think we're more comfortable with what we could do here in this space." And she said, "Okay." And then it was another couple of weeks, and she says, "All right, we'll rent to you." And it wasn't until that the article, when that gal was doing a little research, she started talking to Artie, and Artie told her that there were over 45 applicants in the time that she had this, and she somehow chose
She just
us.
liked us.
And that was it. And now her daughter, who runs the place, already passed away less than a year ago. She goes, when I was at the funeral, she said, she pulled me aside and she goes, "Mike," she goes, "you know, my mom always did things just by her gut, you know," and she said, and she was always right. And she said these guys next door to us have been there for 47 years. And she, you know, and they were just a young couple who were traveling to Mexico and looking for a way to pay for that travel, right? So they'd buy stuff there and they wanted to sell it here. That was their great, you know, amazing idea. And Artie said, "Great, you can have this place." So, you know, they go there. And she goes, you're one of the, probably the top 3 shining examples of her gut being right, you know, because like she said, I'm not one of those guys, fake it till you make it. You know, I'm not going to walk in and you know, rent a Lexus that day to make you think I own or have a lot of money or anything. Like I said, I just told her the truth. we got really good ideas. I think, you know, it would work well here. And you know, our initial concept was kind of a soda fountain, ice cream soda fountain cafe thing. But we just, once we opened the door, we couldn't get out of the breakfast thing. I mean, we were just trying to catch up with what we could do with breakfast.
When we were in Kelso, we worked on gluten-free waffle because I had started not feeling good eating the waffles in the cart because I was eating them all the time because we were there. And we had worked on a gluten-free waffle. And then when we got here, we're like, there's so much room. We can do everything that we want. And so we, that was the Brussels waffle. That was how that came about. And then we added eggs to the menu, you know, so we weren't just carbs in the
Right.
carb row like I was talking about, you know. And so, yeah, so it just took off. The first, so we'll the tasters, you mentioned, you asked me about the tasters earlier. So the first day that we opened, it was November 9th, and it was a Sunday. I don't know why I didn't think that would be a busy day, but I didn't think anybody knew us.
Right. It was because, nobody knew who we were. Nobody knew that we were going to be here, and all we had was our food cart and a little following on Facebook, you know.
So
and Facebook, we did stuff, and I never, we'd announce something, and we have this special, and maybe one or two people would come as a result. So I didn't think Facebook was like a driver of business necessarily. Let everybody know what you're up to, kind of thing. So the first thing we did, I said, we got to put paper in the windows, because if you put paper up, and people can't see in, they're going to wonder what's going on, you know. And what was going on is we just put a coat of paint on.
I had just written a check for everything in my bank account for the last month lease, to sign the lease to get in
Right.
here. So now, woohoo, we got it.
Like $17 or something.
And now we got to buy food to feed people. Right. So, well, we did a Kickstarter. And at the 11th hour, that one funded, because with Kickstarter, if you don't get your goal, then you don't get any of it. And so we got just bare. I mean, I look back and we should have asked for so much more, but we got what we got, and it bought us the food to get us started. And on November 9th, we did a soft opening. I said soft opening, so people should know. You come into a place, but it didn't matter.
But we didn't.
We
there was
hired
no advertising whatsoever. I mean, I don't even know that we even had the foresight to put it on Facebook.
I think what I think happened, I remember a gal came up and was like, "What's going in here? Is it food?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." And there's a very active moms group in Hillsdale. Oh, wow. Very active. And so if it goes out on the moms group, then everybody knows. And so I think maybe she was, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but I think maybe she might have been part of the moms group, because we hired 5 people, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have any money. Here's in my head, I'm like, I am responsible for 5 people's lives and ours. It was already.
Well, but the first day, we were, and I naively was like,
we didn't have 5 people the first day.
But I was like, okay, there's 50 people. No problem, I can cook for 50 people. You can wait on 50 people. That wouldn't be that big a deal.
We had one other person
and she
here.
had one person helping her.
I was like, I can go back to the kitchen and help you cook if you need.
Right. We took the paper off the windows, turned the sign on, and unlocked the door. And within about 20 minutes, this place was full, and I had a line. And I have this little menu, and I'm cooking and trying to get through it. People waited almost 2.5 hours,
and they were so mad. And I'm a kitchen person, so I didn't have any of the out front skills yet. And I was like, they're just so mad. I said, if we could just give them a little something,
right. That's just
to stop.
I was like,
and so
we got to keep them.
Like, just make some little waffles, let them taste it. And then they can start there. They can get their coffee, and then they'll wait better.
Yeah, they won't be so angry.
That was where the taster came from.
So that was the first day thing, and then the
we
first day
realized,
went from 3 people company to about a 10-person company. We hired a bunch of people, and that's when she had that.
We had to hire more people.
She was really worried about everybody's welfare at that point. And it was like.
Yeah. Oh. So actually, I wanted to talk about that, because one of the things that I love about this place is that you have a living wage. Mm-hmm. And I would like you to talk about that, because that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, that the reason I wanted to interview you is because I want to see more places like this. Mm-hmm. In my dream of the future reality, places like this are normal, where people are valued and people feel valued and taken care of, and they have such pride in their work, which I see here. And I know that there's a lot that goes into that. So could you talk about that?
Yeah, so it didn't start out that way. We started out with regular servers that were tipped, and we've been tipless since 2017. So that gives us, let's see, about 2.5 years that we did tips. And I was an accounting student. Well, okay, I had just graduated actually before we opened this, and I kind of went to the kids and I was like, okay guys, we've been working hard, doing all this stuff, and I have my accounting degree now, I could just go get a job, we could have weekends off, or there's this restaurant place open that we could do, it's just going to be a lot of hard work again. And they were all like, Mom, you got to do the restaurant. They will completely deny it at this point. Now they're like, we never said that. Because they have to come help us work. But they're like, Mom, you got to do the restaurant. And so, anyway, so I have my accounting degree now, and I'm running payroll for everybody. And I'm looking into the rules, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the servers are making a ton of money, which is fine, but I can't pay the kitchen staff equal to that.
Oh, wow.
So there's a huge disparity. So it was about, they're making almost double what the kitchen was making. And then every time the minimum wage went up, because we don't have a tip minimum wage in Oregon, every time it went up, the servers got a raise, and I had less money to be able to give the kitchen a raise. And we need people in the kitchen to
so
be
let's
able
say
to cook.
The minimum wage at that time was like $11.50 or something. $11.50. We were paying kitchen staff probably between 14 to $17 an hour then, right? So when she says that minimum wage went up, it would go up, and then the minimum wage employees, which were the tipped employees, would get a pay raise,
They all got raises.
but the kitchen wouldn't get it because they were already making more than minimum wage. Right. And so then the disparity that she was talking about was that the people, wait staff, not only several of them were making more than we were as owners, but they were making like over $30 an hour at that point with their tips. And again, the kitchen we were barely able to get them anywhere from $16 to $18 an hour. So when she's like, there's got to be a better way, she starts crunching the numbers like an accountant.
Well,
and she's like, we could run this like a real business, not the way that restaurants typically run.
First off, I looked at the rules, and if I was out front serving, as the owner, I couldn't take any tips. Mm-hmm. So then what do I do with this money? I have to give it, and I can't give it to the kitchen. I have to give it to the other people that weren't working that day. It just made no sense to me. What we found, and I waited a long time because I was really worried about what customers would say, as far as you're charging us more, you're adding us a surcharge, you're.
I think your prices are very, very reasonable. Just so you know, I mean, it's from my perspective, it's not a problem at all.
Well, and like I said, this was my fear. So this was my fear, and at a certain point, I was like, we can't keep doing this. We're not going to be able to keep the kitchen, and we need the kitchen because that's who's making the food. And so we switched. We said, okay, look, what we're going to do, and we separated it out. I made it very clear so customers could see what we were doing. I said we're tipless. We're just adding 20% to the bill. Seems to be our average tip that you would have paid anyway. So you're not paying anything different. Right. But what's happening here is now people are getting paid a living wage. They're getting benefits. They're getting. We've added things along the way, so we didn't have paid vacation up front, but we added that. We added
profit sharing,
matching IRA. We have a profit incentive. Can't say profit sharing.
Incentive, yes.
Profit sharing implies ownership, so it's a profit incentive. But what that means is that every month that we're profitable, then there's a percentage that the employees split, and so. It's a whole equation because I love numbers and that's what I do. But every
and
6.
it's an incentive to stay because you accrue points the longer you're
Well, I have
with
to
us.
explain that first, Hillsdale.
What's that?
I have to explain the points first.
Oh well, but all I'm saying is it also is an incentive for them for longevity, right? Because the longer you're here, the more you're going to make.
So, when you're here for 6 months worth of full-time hours, you get half a point, and whatever is in the point pool is how it's distributed. So every 6 months, you're getting a raise, right?
Oh, neat.
So you're getting another point into the pool, and the raise doesn't come as an hourly, it comes if we're profitable. So it did a couple of things. It changed sort of the employees we had, and it changed the customers that we had. So first off, the employees, when they're tipped, they had a certain attitude. I don't want to work on a Tuesday because I don't make enough tips that day. I want to work on a Saturday, but I don't want to close because I don't want to clean. Or, you're at the table. Oh, I want some whipped cream. Oh, I'll get you some whipped cream. And are they charging for the whipped cream? You know what I mean? So who is left out in the cold? It's the owner, really.
And that's really the problem with it is that you're at cross purposes with them, right? I mean, they want to do everything for the customer for their tip. And so, like you said, that means they get the extra whipped cream or they get the extra this or that, or I figure out a way to get the kitchen to give me something else special that I look like
At a cost to the owner.
which it's just money out of my pocket then going directly into yours, and so there's kind of this, and I remember an old employer of mine telling me how that worked was he was like, it was a fancy restaurant, and it's maybe somebody would ask for if somebody had a cigarette or something, right? And if they didn't, why maybe one of the wait staff would go across the street to the store and get a pack of cigarettes, just so they could provide this for the customers, what the customer wanted, right? So again, thinking as a business owner, that guy's crossing the street, gets hit by a car or whatever on my on my insurance or whatever. Plus, he's not working for me. He's outside doing, whatever that they're doing, not doing what needs to be done at the restaurant. They're not doing what I'm paying them to do, but they're doing it because they're making the money from the thing. And you can tell about the attitude that we heard when we unveiled this.
I had a server tell me, I don't work for you, I work for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, because I'm paying taxes for you, and I need you to do some things here as part of the job that I've given you. I'm really confused,
Right. The opportunity to make $30+ an hour.
So what happened thank you. What happened when we went tipless is I immediately lost all my servers because they were here because it was busy, and I was having problems getting people to work on certain days because they didn't want to work that day. And then I mean, it didn't take long either because I don't feel like I don't remember pain in the process here, but so we got people in that wanted to serve. They genuinely liked serving. It wasn't that they were coming in and putting on an act so they could make fast money and walk out with cash.
Because what you would have a lot of wait staff is that, I need to make my rent check in a week, right? So I need to make $350. And then as soon as they did, why then they weren't as available. They weren't ready. They were trying to get that shift covered. That they would, and so it was cash, right? So it's a different lifestyle. And I mean, I hate to say it, but it's in the same realm as like a stripper or something, right? I'm getting cash. I'm not claiming that money, right? So in their mind, it's like free money. They go out and they spend it. It's a lifestyle kind of thing, right? What she did when she changed this is now you've got a job like everybody else, right? You're going to get paid every 2 weeks, and you're going to have to think about what you're going to spend your money on, and that So she gave budget classes to everybody to get them to understand. She got them figuring out how to, like I said, how to budget, how to plan for that, and then like you said, motivation is one to serve, not I'm just gonna, I know I can go in there and I can, if I work 2 hours, I can make, $300 or something, So, it's completely changed that.
Wow. And I just want to say that as a customer, I feel that they are genuine as opposed to, I've been places, I've eaten places where people are great, but I've also been places where exactly what you're describing, I'm like, oh yeah, I see that happening. But the way that you've set it up, especially with the profit sharing, I think people are, like, yeah, I enjoy doing this for this reason, and I want the business to be successful, which means I'm going to make the entire, basically, if you put it in New Age terms, it raises the vibration of the entire area, and everything about this restaurant is, from my perspective, it's gone up a notch from what I see at some other restaurants, because people genuinely care about you, about the business, about pride in their work. Even just talking to the regular people that, wait on me, oh my gosh, they are amazing human beings.
And, that is actually our best, whatever advertisement for that is that, if people came in and talked to us for whatever reason, they don't trust what we say, right? Like
we're the big bad owners.
She has people accusing her of pocketing all that money and all that kind of stuff. But if somebody comes in, and more often than not, it's a customer who's kind of, they know we're the owners or whatever. It's almost like pulling a server aside and say, hey, how's this working out for you?
Are they taking care of you?
And our employees are like, oh, great, we get, and they'll list it off. We get this, and this. We get a living wage, blah, blah, blah. It's great. It works great, and they accept that a lot more than they would listening to us talk, I think, because,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, exactly. To hold on to that one. That's one of the things that made me want to talk to you, was because of the way that the employees talk about it. Or exactly, yes.
Well, the other thing is that it created a situation where our employees came to play on our team now. Now they work for Now they work for us. Not for us, they work with us.
Right.
And so we all have the same goal. We want to be profitable, right? And so they start thinking about things like, maybe we shouldn't take so much jam out. It doesn't seem like everybody uses all the jam that we take. And they say thinking like a business owner.
If we fill the creamers only half full, then we
It's
only
enough,
throw away half as much
and then
if
we're
they
not
don't use
throwing
it.
stuff away.
They think about that.
Right. Well, and I wanted to, I was noticing some of the things that they're doing. I'm not sure who came up with the idea, but I saw that the old coffee, or the coffee that wasn't used, that was genius. It's turned into ice cubes for your iced coffees.
I'll tell you why.
She likes
because, well, first off, I do like to drink coffee.
She doesn't like to throw things away.
But when we had the tipped servers, they just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
They would make all the coffee that they thought they needed, and then they would just at the end of the day dump it down the drain. I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. You guys make what you need, and if we have leftovers, you're going to freeze it. And what happened was they didn't like making the coffee ice cubes, so they were more careful about how much coffee they were using. It saved us money.
Right.
But also, it's always like there's like a two-pronged thing. So then customers are like, coffee ice cubes? I haven't seen that. What?
Right.
That's great. And then people come here for their coffee just because they like the coffee. It doesn't
water your coffee
dilute
down.
your coffee, and So anyway, it was training.
I'll give you another example. And see, so when we did this at first, like I said, we both of us had that fear that people were going to really not like it, right? And your mind goes kind of nuts, and I'm sitting there thinking, if we do this, 50% of the people are going to go away, right? In my mind, right? Well, that absolutely did not happen, and we were pleasantly surprised. I would say, and I'm a pretty conservative estimator. I know you're listening to me. I might be fairly hyperbolic in my speech, but it was probably about 5%. I would say of people who were really perturbed enough to say something that they didn't like this.
And we're never going there because people do that. And I was like, now again, two-pronged effect, right? So we have these people, they're like, I want to have the control. how do I know that I'm going to get good service if I am not going to be able to put money down for them? I want to have control. And I was like, that's a terrible thing. You know, why would you want that? And then so these people are the people that want to have the control to not tip 20%, right? And so they're people that don't tip generally. And also those tend to be the more difficult customers, which we've now cut out. So now we have happier servers that can deal with happier customers. And we don't have as many issues, right?
Right.
Now, I would, and I don't like to, like profile or anything like that, but let's just say that most of the people who complain about this stuff were of a certain age, right? And I think older customers used to their own ways or whatever. This was a change that they didn't like, right? So we would get a lot of pushback from some of the older customers. Not too long ago, I had an old guy come in who said as he came in that he hadn't been in several years. And but he just couldn't. He just needed one of the waffles, right? So he came in and he ordered a waffle, and then he's looking at the menu and he goes, "Wow!" He goes, "I haven't been here in a long time, And he goes, "I should probably have some bacon." And he looks at the price of the bacon. And he goes, "Oh, geez." He goes, and he's like, "I'll just have the waffle and the coffee. That's all, Thanks." And I thought, okay, here comes a bad Yelp review or something. We're going to hear something about this. So I was sitting over there. He gets it done, and then server brings him his check. And then, like a lot of people, he's looking, and there's nowhere to put a tip. There's nowhere to fill that part out. And he's like, ask, where's that? And the server did what we just talked about. He told him, well, we're tipless, and he explained that. And the guy did the same thing. He kind of, well, how's that working for you? Tell me for real, And they were, and he listened to the whole thing, and then he sat back, and he goes, well, heck, he goes, I'd eat here even if the food was shitty. He's like, and I, so I mean, like I said, we're not doing anything like unreasonable. I think when people really hear it, and they get rid of that initial reaction that, well, that's got to be bad, it really is a good thing. And like she says,
I've had so much more positive than
the biggest one. We've taken math out of the equation for people, especially in the morning at a breakfast place. Who wants to do that equation in their head?
Why do they have math classes in the morning? That's something I always wanted to know. I don't understand.
Because there's people like me that like math.
So I was a double major. I also had a computer science degree. So I love math. So I know what you're saying, but
not in the morning.
Not in the morning.
Not before your coffee.
I need my coffee first. So anyway, so there we go.
So I mean, like I said, like many things in life, right? Your fears are never realized, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be, But
well, I got to say, I got a lot more than I bargained for with this, delightfully, and we've been doing this for over an hour now, so I'm gonna ask if I could maybe come back again. Maybe the listeners will submit some questions. I might have to filter them. I'll be putting your website on, and putting information about your business and how people can get here. Mm-hmm. But would you mind doing this again?
Sure.
Because this was so much fun for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You bet.
We're happy to. Yeah.
This is our favorite subject, ourselves.
Well, and I love hearing people's stories. So you didn't hear earlier, but the podcast is called All Dreams Considered, and so I'm looking around the world and saying, okay, what dreams do I want? Well, what are the dreams that are in the world, and how do I bring the ones that I think need to be highlighted into, just put more focus on it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to be the change I want to be, or I want to see in the world, to quote somebody else.
Aristotle.
Yeah, nice, Mr. Philosophy major. Very nice. But okay. Well, we will be back again. We've been talking with Charlene and Mike of Gigi's Cafe here in Hillsdale, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon. And once again, this is Sarah with All Dreams Considered. Thank you.
All Dreams Considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered.